The airport was loud, crowded, and full of rushing people, but one moment suddenly felt different, almost frozen in time. A tall, well-dressed millionaire walked through the terminal with calm confidence, his expensive watch shining under the bright lights, his shoes clean, his posture straight. In his hand, he carried a heavy designer bag, not for himself, but for a young woman walking beside him. She smiled, her face full of excitement, her eyes bright with comfort and pride. She looked like someone who had everything she wanted. People around them glanced at the couple, some impressed, some curious, because they looked perfect together, rich, stylish, and happy. But behind them, far enough to be unnoticed at first, another figure slowly entered the same space. A woman, tired, pale, and quiet, walked carefully through the crowd, holding two small babies in her arms. Her clothes were simple, slightly worn, her hair tied loosely, her face showed nights without sleep, days without help, and a heart carrying too much pain. The babies moved softly, one of them letting out a small cry, the sound almost lost in the noise of the airport. She stopped for a moment, adjusting her grip, trying not to drop anything, trying not to fall apart. Then her eyes locked on him. The same man, the same face, the same voice she once trusted more than anything. He had not changed, he still looked strong, still looked successful, still looked like the man she once called her husband. But now he was laughing with another woman. For a few seconds she just stood there, her body still, her heart racing, her breath heavy. "He left us, but today I found him," she whispered under her breath. The man had no idea, not yet. He kept walking, talking, smiling, acting like his world was perfect. The young woman beside him leaned closer, asking something softly, and he responded with a gentle smile, as if nothing in his life was broken. But everything was about to change. The tired woman took a deep breath and started walking toward him, step by step, slow but steady. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were focused. She was not lost anymore. People moved around her, some bumping into her, some looking at the babies, but she did not stop. She had waited too long for this moment. As she got closer, her memories started coming back like waves. Nights alone, holding both babies while crying silently, days without enough food, waiting for a message that never came. She remembered the promises he made, the love he once showed, the life they built together. And then, how everything disappeared without warning. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. The man suddenly slowed his steps. Something felt strange, like someone was watching him. He turned his head slightly, not fully, just enough to notice movement behind him. For a second his eyes met hers, and everything stopped. His smile disappeared instantly, his body froze. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. The young woman next to him noticed the change, her eyebrows tightening. "Is something wrong?" she asked, confused. He did not answer. His eyes locked on the woman with the twins. The distance between them was now only a few steps. The tired woman stopped right in front of him, her breathing heavy, but her voice calm. People nearby began to slow down, sensing something unusual. The babies moved again, one of them letting out a soft cry, breaking the silence. The young woman looked at the scene, then back at the man. "Who is she?" she asked, her voice sharper now. The man swallowed, his throat dry, his hands slightly shaking. For a moment he said nothing. The tired woman looked directly into his eyes. No fear, no hesitation, just truth. "You forgot something," she said quietly. The man's heart pounded harder, his face losing color. The people around them were now watching openly, whispers starting to spread. The young woman stepped back a little, sensing something serious, something hidden. "What is she talking about?" she demanded. The man tried to speak, but no words came out. Then the tired woman shifted one of the babies slightly and stepped even closer. "Your sons," she said, her voice still calm but filled with deep emotion. The words hit like a shock. The young woman's eyes widened, her face turning pale. "What?" she whispered. The man closed his eyes for a second, as if hoping this moment would disappear. But it did not. The airport noise came rushing back, but this small space around them felt heavy, tense, and impossible to escape. The tired woman held the babies closer, her strength surprising even herself. She was no longer the weak woman he left behind. She had changed, and this was only the beginning. Now the truth was standing right in front of him, and there was no way to run anymore. Before the airport moment, before the silence, before the shock, Her story had already begun in pain. She lived in a small apartment at the edge of the city. Far from luxury, far from comfort. A place where even sunlight felt weak. The walls were plain, slightly cracked, the furniture old, and the air always quiet, too quiet. Every morning started the same way, not with rest but with responsibility. She woke up before the babies cried. Because she had learned their rhythm, she had learned survival. The twins slept beside her on a thin mattress, their small bodies close together, their breathing soft, innocent, unaware of the struggle around them. She looked at them for a few seconds every morning, not with sadness but with strength. "They are the reason I stand," she would whisper softly. There was no one else, no family nearby, no friends who stayed, no one who truly understood what she was carrying inside. When he left, everything changed overnight. Bills started piling up, food became limited, and silence became louder than any noise. First she waited. She thought maybe he would call, maybe he would explain, maybe there was something she did not understand. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but nothing came. No message, no apology, no sign that he even remembered her existence. Still she did not break. She worked quietly, doing small jobs from home, sewing clothes, packing items, anything that could bring a little money. Her hands became rough, her back often hurt, but she never stopped. At night, when both babies cried at the same time, she held them close, one in each arm, gently rocking back and forth. Her eyes filled with tears, but she never let them fall completely. "I am here," she would whisper again and again, even when she felt empty inside. There were nights when she had no proper food. She would drink water and pretend she was not hungry, saving everything for the babies. Her body became weaker, but her heart became stronger. One evening, while organizing old things, she found a photo. It was from a happier time. He was standing next to her, smiling, his arm around her shoulder. Both of them looking like they had the whole world ahead of them. She stared at the photo for a long time. "Where did you go?" she asked softly, not expecting an answer. She could not understand how someone who once loved so deeply could disappear so easily. But slowly something inside her changed. Waiting turned into thinking, and thinking turned into realizing. She started noticing small things she had ignored before. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the way he avoided eye contact near the end. It was not sudden, it was planned, and that truth hurt more than anything. But instead of breaking her, it woke her up. She stopped waiting for him. She stopped hoping for his return. And she started preparing. Every small job she did, every little money she saved, every document she kept, she did it with a purpose now. Not for survival alone but for truth. She kept records, she remembered details, she connected pieces in silence. No one saw her struggle, but no one saw her strength either. The twins grew slowly, their small smiles becoming her only peace. Sometimes when they laughed, she forgot everything for a moment. But reality always returned. One day, while working late at night, she saw something that changed everything. A message, a detail, a connection that finally revealed where he was. Not just where, but how he was living. Luxury, comfort, and another woman. For a few seconds, her hands froze, her breath stopped. Then something unexpected happened. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already knew deep inside. "So this is your truth," she said quietly. That night she made a decision. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of dignity. She would not beg, she would not chase. But she would face him. Not as the broken woman he left behind, but as someone stronger, someone who survived without him. The next few days were different. She prepared carefully, organizing everything, planning every step. She packed only what was needed, clothes for the babies, a few important items, and the strength she had built over months of pain. On the morning she left the apartment, she looked around one last time. This place had seen her weakest moments, but also her strongest growth. She did not hate it, she respected it. Then she picked up the twins, one in each arm, just like always. But this time her steps were different. They were not slow and tired. They were steady and certain. She was not walking toward him for answers anymore. She was walking toward him with truth. And when she finally reached the airport, blending into the crowd, her eyes searching, her heart calm, she saw him. Smiling, laughing, living a life that did not include her. For a moment time slowed again. But this time she did not freeze. She moved forward. because this was no longer about what he did. This was about who she had become. Long before the airport, before the silence, before the twins were even born, their story looked completely different. Back then, he was not just a millionaire, he was a man full of dreams, energy, and ambition. He worked hard, spoke with confidence, and carried a charm that made people trust him easily. She saw something real in him, something honest, something worth building a life with, and for a while she was right. They met in a simple place, not rich, not special, just two people crossing paths at the right time. Their connection was natural, easy, almost peaceful. He listened to her, respected her, and made her feel safe, something she had never truly felt before. "You are different," he once told her, looking straight into her eyes. She believed him. They built their life slowly, step by step, not with luxury but with trust. Even when money was limited, they laughed together, shared small meals, and dreamed about a better future. And that future started coming faster than expected. His business began to grow, small deals turning into bigger ones, opportunities appearing one after another. He became busier, more focused, more driven. First, she was proud of him, she supported him in every way she could. "You will make it," she would say, smiling. And he did. Success came, money came, and with it a new lifestyle. Bigger house, better clothes, expensive meetings, and a circle of people who only cared about status. That was the moment everything slowly started changing. Not suddenly, not clearly, but quietly. He began coming home late, at first with reasons, then with excuses. His phone became something he protected, always turned away, always silent when she was near. Conversations became shorter, colder, less meaningful. She noticed, but she did not react immediately. She trusted him. But trust, when ignored too many times, begins to weaken. One night, she waited for him for hours. Dinner already cold, lights dim, silence heavy. When he finally came home, he looked different, distracted, distant. "Busy day," he said quickly, avoiding her eyes. She nodded, but something inside her felt wrong. Days passed, and that feeling only grew stronger. Then came the first lie she clearly recognized. It was small, almost unimportant, but it was obvious. He said he was at a meeting, but she saw something that proved otherwise. She did not confront him, not yet. Instead, she watched quietly, carefully. And the truth slowly revealed itself, piece by piece. The late nights were not work. The secret calls were not business. And his distance was not stress. It was someone else. The realization hit her deeply, but she stayed calm. Not because it did not hurt, but because she needed to understand everything first. She began connecting the moments, the changes, the patterns, and then one day she saw her. The young woman, confident, beautiful, always close to him, always smiling. The way he looked at her was enough to confirm everything. It was not just a mistake, it was a choice. That night, when he came home, she looked at him differently. Not with anger, not with tears, but with quiet awareness. "You seem happy," she said softly. He paused for a second, surprised. "Of course I am," he replied quickly. But his voice was not steady. That was the moment she understood. He was already gone, even if he was still standing in front of her. From that day, their home stopped feeling like a home. It became a place filled with silence, questions, and unspoken truth. Then came the final change. He started staying away completely, days turning into nights without any return. Messages became rare, then completely gone. And one day, he simply did not come back at all. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. Just absence. At that time, she was already carrying his children. But he did not know, or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. That question stayed in her mind, unanswered. At first, she tried to reach him, calling, sending messages, hoping for even one response. But there was nothing. It was as if he erased her from his life completely. That silence was louder than any betrayal. Still, she did not collapse. She held on, not for him, but for the life growing inside her. Months later, when the twins were born, she faced everything alone. No support, no partner, no one to hold her hand. Only pain, strength, and responsibility. And through all of it, one truth stayed clear in her mind. He did not lose her by accident. He let her go by choice. Back at the airport, standing just a few steps away from him, holding the children he never came back for, she remembered all of it. Every promise, every lie, every moment that led to this day. And as she looked at him now, No longer the man she once loved, but the man who walked away. She realized something powerful. He thought his story moved forward without her. But in reality, this was the moment his past finally caught up with him. The air inside the airport felt heavier now, as if something unseen had taken control of the moment. People were still moving, flights were still being announced, luggage wheels still rolled across the floor, but around them, everything felt slower, quieter, almost unreal. He stood frozen, his eyes locked on the woman in front of him. The woman he once called his wife. And in her arms, the truth he could not escape. The twins shifted slightly, one of them letting out a soft cry, the sound cutting through the tension like a sharp line. The young woman beside him looked from him to the tired mother, confusion turning into suspicion. "Say something," she whispered, her voice tight. But he could not, his throat felt dry, his mind racing, trying to find a way out. There was no easy answer, no simple lie this time. The tired woman adjusted her hold on the babies, her arms clearly exhausted, but her posture still strong. She had not come here to beg. She had come here to face him. People nearby had started to notice, their eyes slowly gathering, whispers forming quietly, not loud enough to interrupt, but enough to create pressure. The young woman stepped slightly away from him now, her expression no longer soft. "Who is she?" she asked again, louder this time. He finally moved, just a little, his lips parting as if words might come. But before he could say anything, the tired woman spoke first. "She deserves the truth," she said calmly. Her voice was not loud, but it carried strength, the kind that comes from surviving something deep. The young woman looked directly at her now, studying her face, her tired eyes, the babies in her arms. "What truth?" she asked slowly. The silence returned, thicker than before. Then the tired woman took one small step forward, closing the last bit of distance. "He is their father," she said, her voice steady. The words landed heavily, impossible to ignore. The young woman's face changed instantly, her confidence breaking, her eyes widening with disbelief. "That's not possible," she said quickly, turning to him, searching for denial. He looked at her, then at the twins, then back at the ground. His silence said everything. The truth did not need confirmation anymore. The young woman stepped back further now, her body tense, her trust cracking in front of everyone. "You lied to me," she said, her voice shaking. He tried to speak, finally. "It's not what you think," he said weakly. But even he did not believe those words. The tired woman watched him quietly, no anger on her face, just a calm strength that made him even more uncomfortable. "Not what she thinks," she repeated softly. Then she looked at the young woman, her eyes filled with a quiet warning. "He didn't just lie to you," she said. "He left his family." The words echoed deeper than before. Around them, more people had slowed down, some pretending to check their phones, others openly watching. This was no longer a private moment. This was exposure. The twins moved again, one of them reaching out slightly, as if unaware of the tension. The tired woman looked down at them for a second, her expression softening. Then she did something unexpected. She gently stepped closer to him and placed one of the babies into his arms. The movement was slow, controlled, undeniable. He reacted instantly, his body stiff, his hands unsure. "I can't," he said quickly, stepping back slightly. But she did not pull the baby away. "You can," she said calmly. The baby looked up, small, innocent, completely unaware of the situation. For the first time, he truly looked at the child. And something inside him shifted, even if only slightly. The young woman watched the scene, her face now pale, her emotions turning from confusion to anger. "You told me you were alone," she said sharply. "You said there was no one." He looked at her, guilt clear in his eyes. "I was going to explain," he said, but the words sounded empty. "When?" she replied quickly. "After how many lies?" The tension grew stronger, tighter, almost impossible to breathe in. The tired woman took a small step back now, still holding the second baby. She had done what she came to do. She had brought the truth into the open. But she was not finished yet. Her eyes returned to him, steady, focused. "I didn't come here to fight," she said quietly. "I came here so you can finally see what you left behind." Her voice carried something deeper now, not just pain, but dignity. a dignity he could not break, no matter how far he ran. The young woman looked between them again, then slowly shook her head. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she said to him, her voice filled with disappointment. Then she stepped away, creating distance not just physically but emotionally. The man stood there, holding a child he never expected to face, between two lives he could no longer separate. And for the first time, he realized something terrifying. This moment was not under his control anymore. The life he carefully built on lies was starting to collapse right in front of everyone. And the woman he thought was weak was the one holding all the power now. The moment did not end. It only became heavier. The airport noise returned around them, but it no longer mattered, because inside that small space, everything was breaking apart. He stood still, holding the baby awkwardly, his hands unsure, his mind overwhelmed. This was not a situation he could escape with money, or charm, or silence. This was real. The young woman who once stood proudly beside him now looked at him like a stranger. Her eyes filled with doubt and disappointment. "You lied about everything," she said quietly, her voice no longer loud, but far more dangerous. He tried to step closer to her, but she moved back instantly, creating a clear distance between them. "Don't," she said, shaking her head. That one word carried more rejection than anything else. The tired woman watched silently, still holding the second baby close to her chest. She did not interrupt. She did not rush. She allowed the truth to unfold on its own. Because this was not about forcing anything anymore. This was about revealing everything. The baby in his arms moved slightly, letting out a soft sound. He looked down again, this time longer, more carefully. The child's small face, innocent and calm, reflected something he could not ignore. Responsibility, guilt, reality. His breathing became uneven, his chest tight. For the first time, he was not thinking about how to protect himself. He was feeling the weight of what he had done. The young woman turned away for a second, trying to process everything. "Tell me the truth," she said slowly, not looking at him. "All of it." The silence that followed felt endless. He knew there was no way to fix this with another lie. "Not now. Not here. I didn't plan it like this," he finally said, his voice low, almost weak. Both women looked at him, but with very different expressions. The tired woman remained calm, waiting. The young woman looked at him with disbelief. "You didn't plan what?" she asked sharply. He struggled to continue, his words heavy. "I was already married," he admitted. The sentence dropped like a weight. "And I knew," he added after a pause. The young woman's face changed instantly, anger rising fast. "You knew," she repeated, her voice louder now. "You knew and you still stayed with me." He could not answer that. Because there was no answer that could justify it. The tired woman closed her eyes for a second, not out of pain, but as if confirming the truth one last time. Everything she had suspected was now spoken out loud. The young woman laughed suddenly, but there was no humor in it. "This is insane," she said, shaking her head. "I trusted you." Her voice broke slightly, but she quickly controlled it. "No," she corrected herself. "I believed your lies." He stepped forward again, still holding the baby. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. But the words sounded empty, even to himself. The tired woman finally spoke again, her voice steady but deeper now. "You didn't mean to hurt anyone," she said softly. "But you did." Her words were simple, but they carried the full weight of his actions. The baby in his arms started to move more, making small sounds. He instinctively tried to calm the child, but he did not know how. His movements were awkward, unsure, disconnected. The tired woman watched him carefully. "You don't even know how to hold him," she said quietly. There was no anger in her tone, just truth. That truth hit harder than any accusation. The young woman stepped further back now, her decision becoming clearer. "I can't stay in this," she said firmly. "I won't be part of someone else's broken life." She looked at the tired woman for a moment, her expression softening slightly. "I didn't know," she said honestly. The tired woman nodded once, accepting that. "I know," she replied. That small exchange changed everything. The anger shifted direction, no longer between the two women, but entirely toward him. The young woman picked up her bag slowly, her movements controlled. He noticed and panicked. "Wait," he said quickly. But she did not stop. "You made your choice a long time ago," she said without looking back. "Now live with it." And just like that, she walked away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving him standing there, holding the result of his past. The silence that followed felt different now. Not tense but final. The tired woman stepped closer again, gently taking the baby back into her arms. This time he did not resist. He let go slowly, as if he knew he had no right to hold on anymore. For a few seconds they stood face to face. No crowd, no noise, just two people connected by a broken story. "I didn't come here for her," she said quietly. "I came here for you." He looked at her, his eyes filled with something new, something closer to regret. But regret came too late. "You have a choice now," she continued, her voice calm but firm. "Not for me. Not for your image. But for them," she said, looking down at the twins. He followed her gaze, his expression changing again. This time there was no escape, no distraction. Only truth. And for the first time in his life, he stood at a breaking point where money could not save him. Lies could not protect him. And silence could not hide him. Now whatever came next would define everything he had left. The silence between them did not feel empty anymore. It felt controlled. For the first time since the confrontation began, she was no longer reacting, she was leading. He stood there, still trying to process everything, but she had already moved beyond that point. This was not just a moment for her. This was a plan that had been building quietly for months. He looked at her, expecting anger, expecting tears, expecting something he could respond to. But what he saw instead made him more uneasy. Calm. Too calm. "You're not asking me to come back," he said slowly, confusion in his voice. She shook her head lightly. "No," she replied. That one word shifted everything again. He frowned, trying to understand. "Then why are you here?" he asked. She adjusted the babies gently, making sure both were comfortable, before answering. "I told you," she said. "So you can finally see." But there was something more behind her words now, something he could feel but not fully understand. He looked around for a moment, as if searching for control. But there was none left. "What do you want?" he asked again, this time more directly. She held his gaze, steady and unshaken. "Nothing from you," she said. That answer hit him harder than anything else, because it meant she was no longer dependent on him in any way. That was something he never expected. Before he could respond, she reached into her bag carefully, pulling out a small envelope. It looked simple, nothing special, but the way she held it told a different story. She extended it toward him. "Take it," she said. He hesitated for a second, then slowly took the envelope, his fingers slightly tense. "What is this?" he asked. "Open it," she replied calmly. He did, his eyes scanning the papers inside. At first, his expression showed confusion. Then it changed, slowly, into shock. His breathing stopped for a second, his hands tightening around the documents. "This is not possible," he said under his breath. But it was. Every page he turned confirmed it more clearly. Legal records, financial details, ownership transfers. Things he never thought she would understand, let alone control. He looked up at her, his face now completely different. "How did you get this?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid. She did not rush her answer. "The same way you thought I would never," she said quietly. "By watching, by learning, by not being as weak as you believed." The truth unfolded in front of him, piece by piece. While he was busy building a new life, she was quietly protecting the one he abandoned. While he was hiding money, she was tracking it. While he was lying, she was preparing. "You were so sure I wouldn't understand anything," she continued. "That I would just stay and wait." He said nothing, because that was exactly what he thought. But he was wrong. She had already taken steps he never imagined. Part of his business, part of his assets, things he thought were untouchable. They were no longer fully his. "They're in your name," he said slowly, disbelief still clear in his voice. She nodded once. "Not all," she corrected. "Only what I needed." The control in her voice was quiet, but powerful. He felt it, deeply. For the first time, he was not the one in control of the situation. He was the one catching up. Why didn't you say anything before? He asked, his voice softer now. She looked at him for a moment, then answered honestly. Because you weren't ready to hear it. That answer carried more truth than anything else. He looked down at the papers again, his mind racing through every decision he made, every step he took, and how all of it led to this moment. You planned this, he said quietly. She shook her head slightly. No, she replied. I survived this. That difference mattered. She did not create the situation. She adapted to it. She became stronger because she had no other choice. The twins moved gently in her arms, pulling her attention for a second. She looked down at them, her expression softening again. Everything she did, every step she took, was for them. Then she looked back at him. This is not revenge, she said clearly. This is balance. The word stayed in the air, heavy and undeniable. He felt it. Everything he avoided, everything he ignored, had now returned to him. Not with anger, but with precision. I could have taken more, she added quietly. But I didn't. He looked at her again, confused. Why? He asked. Her answer came without hesitation. Because this was never about destroying you, she said. It was about showing you what you chose to lose. The power in that statement left him speechless. He realized something in that moment, something he had not felt before. He did not just lose a wife. He lost someone far stronger than he ever understood. The woman standing in front of him was not the same one he walked away from. She was someone new. Someone who had faced pain and turned it into strength. And now she did not need anything from him. Not love, not support, not validation. Nothing. For the first time, he understood his position clearly. He was no longer the center of the story. He was the consequence of it. The decision had been made, but the story was not over, not even close. Standing there in the airport with people moving around them and life continuing like nothing had happened, something deeper had already shifted. He said he would stay. But staying was not a word. It was a test. Days passed after that moment, and for the first time in a long time his life slowed down. The luxury, the endless meetings, the empty distractions, they all felt different now. Less important. Less real. He found himself in a small apartment instead of a large house. The same place she had lived in alone. Now he saw it clearly, the simple walls, the worn furniture, the quiet space filled with effort and sacrifice. This was the life he had walked away from. And now he was stepping back into it. At first, everything felt unfamiliar. Holding the twins was not easy, feeding them was not natural, calming them when they cried felt overwhelming. He made mistakes, small ones but real ones, and every mistake reminded him of how much he had missed. She watched him not with anger but with distance. She did not guide him, she did not correct him immediately. Because this was his responsibility to learn. Slowly, day by day, something began to change. Not quickly, not perfectly, but honestly. He started waking up early, helping where he could, learning their needs, understanding their small signals. For the first time, he was not leading a business. He was learning how to be present. The twins responded in their own way, small smiles, quiet moments, little signs of comfort. And those moments affected him more than any success he had ever achieved. But even as things improved, something remained clear. She was not the same. She was calm, strong, independent, but distant. Not cold, just no longer connected in the same way. One evening, after the twins had finally fallen asleep, the apartment was quiet again. He sat across from her, the weight of everything still present. I'm trying, he said quietly. She nodded slightly, acknowledging his effort. I can see that, she replied. Her voice was neutral, not emotional. That difference mattered. He hesitated, then asked the question that had been in his mind since that day. Can we go back? He said. The moment he said it, the silence changed. She looked at him, not surprised, but prepared. No, she answered calmly. The word was clear, simple, and final. He felt it immediately, but this time he did not argue. He understood. You made your choice before, she continued. And I made mine after. There was no anger in her voice, just truth. I'm not here as your wife anymore, she added. I'm here as their mother. That line defined everything. He lowered his gaze for a moment, accepting what he had lost. Not because she was punishing him, but because he had already let it go. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. He stayed just like he said he would. He learned, he improved, he became more present. But their relationship remained different. Respect existed, communication existed, but love as it once was, that was gone. And he knew he could not demand it back. One afternoon, while organizing some papers, he came across something unexpected. Documents he had not seen before. He opened them slowly, his eyes scanning the pages, and once again, shock filled his expression, this time deeper than before. It was not just about shared assets anymore. It was bigger. Much bigger. A large portion of his company, his main business, the core of everything he built, was no longer under his control. It was legally transferred, structured, and secured, under her name, completely. He looked up at her, disbelief clear in his eyes. "You own this," he said slowly. She nodded once, calm as always. "Yes," she replied. He struggled to understand. "When did this happen?" he asked. Her answer came without hesitation. "While you were busy building a life without us," she said quietly. The truth hit harder this time. Because now, he fully understood the depth of her strength. She had not just survived. She had risen. And everything he thought he controlled was never fully his to begin with. He sat back slowly, processing it all. A strange feeling filled him, not anger, not regret, but realization. He did not lose everything in one moment. He lost it piece by piece every time he chose to walk away. She looked at him one last time, her expression calm but powerful. "You thought I needed you," she said softly. Then she paused for just a second. "But I was the one holding your world together." The words stayed in the air, final and undeniable. The screen fades slowly, the emotion settling deep, and a soft voice follows. "Some people only understand love when they lose everything. If you believe family should never be broken, subscribe to Silent Family Tears.